I was just curious about the reason that we are so open to hand our will over to others and spirits, is that we have very, very little trust in ourselves.
Can you see that your question, you're asking it because you didn't actually hear my answer to Pamela, because in the answer to Pamela I actually told her the reason why it happens. Shall I say it again?
You don't have to.
I will say it again because this is very important to understand. We are trying to choose pleasure over pain. That is our only motivation. So what's happening inside of us is we're not interested in love and truth compared with error. So in our mind and in our soul, we're not comparing love and truth with error and then making a decision. What we're doing is we're comparing what we believe is pleasure and pain and making a decision. So the reason why we allow people of all sorts, spirits and others, to influence our unloving decisions is because inside of us we do not have any developed sense of what is loving versus what is unloving. What we only have as a measuring stick, and this is the measuring stick most of the planet use, is whether it's pleasant or painful. That's the only measuring stick we use to make our decisions. If it's pleasurable, do it. If it's painful, don't do it. Now, each one of you has a different definition. Remember, there's 6 and 7 billion different definitions of what is love and what isn't. So each of you has a different definition of what is pleasure and what is pain. Some of you think having sex all the time is pleasure. Others of you couldn't think of anything worse, right? You'd view that as pain. So our internal systems are measuring from our own injuries and from our own hurt and so forth, what we believe is pleasant and painful. But basically what we're doing is what we believe is painful, we avoid, and what we believe is pleasurable, we do, and that's the only decision we're making. We're not making a decision based on what is loving and truthful versus what is error and unloving. We're not making that decision. In fact, that decision doesn't even cross our mind a lot of the time. We're just in this other decision instantly, right? Now, I could give many millions of examples of that, and where you see that happening all the time in each of your lives. And the key for you to do is to change this pain versus pleasure way of addressing your life. So in other words, stop using even your mind to make a distinction between what is pleasurable and what is painful, and start using your soul and your mind to make a distinction about what is loving and truthful versus what is error and unloving. Start doing that. Does that make sense? Now that can be done at your will, but remember what we're talking about in this 2 days is there's a whole heap of things that stop you from doing that with your will. They are your desire to resist faith, your desire to resist truth, your fear of action and your fear of emotion. They stop you from doing that. You follow? So what you do then is you don't make this decision here with your heart or your mind. So let's say our mind and our heart can be, our soul and our mind can be involved in this decision, right? But what we do is over here, our mind and our soul is involved only in this decision. Now, it's very important you get that. Very important that you get that actually what you're doing with most of your life is just making a decision based on what is pleasurable and painful, and it's your definition of what's pleasurable and painful. And that's why you will make a completely different decision than someone else in exactly the same situation, because inside of you, you have predispositions towards what is pleasurable and what is painful. Like for some of you, what is pleasurable is eating until you're stuffed full, right? That's pleasurable, right? Now, of course, those kind of people generally get bigger and bigger and bigger, do they not? Right? That's what they believe is pleasure. But when they have a heart attack, that's the results of that action. They then work out, well, maybe there's some pain associated with it, right? Many people on earth believe smoking is pleasurable. But when they get lung cancer from it, then it wasn't so pleasurable, right? But interestingly enough, many people continue to smoke even after they have lung cancer. So they don't even, to them, the pleasure of getting the lung cancer, of the smoking, is not worth the pain of dying to avoid. And this shows you how skewed we are in our own personal measure of what is pleasurable and what is painful. And we need to understand that. Now, not tomorrow, but the next day, we'll be having a talk about pain and pleasure for this reason. But what I'm getting at here, in terms of talking about fear of emotion, is that we need to understand that for the majority of us, we just view all emotion that is painful must be avoided, and it's our definition of painful. Some emotions that you think are terrible to feel, other people think is great to feel. Right? But so it's our personal definition of what is painful that determines how much we're willing to experience our emotion. Isn't that like pretty full on when you think about it? Because basically what we're saying is, I'm in a condition of sin where I want to sin. I'm in a condition where most of the beliefs that I have are actually completely out of harmony with love and truth. And the only way that I measure my behaviour is not looking at love and truth at all, not looking at truth and error at all. I'm not comparing. What I'm doing is just comparing my internal measurement system, pleasure versus pain, and then I'm choosing whatever I think pleasure is, I'll do that, and whatever I think pain is, I avoid that. And that's all I do. And then I ask, well, what's really governing your life? Your soul's not governing your life. What's governing your life really is pain. And your definition of it and your avoidance of it. That's all that's governing your life. And that's what we end up with in the end. If we come down